Oh man, who doesn't love a good old 65 Deluxe Reverb V3 free? Look at that. I've given this profile away so many times for free, and there's good reason. It's great sounding. I had this comment come up. Last video we did, it was on the AC44, real bright. AC44 was like a thing I made. It's an AC10 fed into an EL34 power section. Sounded bright, sounded chimey, sounded great. Sounded like this. And there's a ton of comments. You can go back and look at this comment. Ton of comments going, wow, sounds like Bryan Adams. Uncle Larry, would approve of this tone. And this sounds great. And one guy said this. He said, I wish all your profiles were that bright. And I thought, man, I can show you how to make them all that bright. I can show you how to brighten up all that stuff, and you can make them all sound however you want. The voicing of an amp is something the maker does when they make the amp, but also it's something I do when I mic it. And, I can make something sound brighter or darker with microphone choice, microphone placement, and sometimes, I'm just in different moods and different kind of seasons of my tonal life. And I like stuff more mid-rangey, then I like stuff more scooped and bright, and then I like stuff wider and then more focused because I've been playing in a lot of denser mixes. And I don't know, man, but let me show you how to brighten this thing up. Check this out. I got the Deluxe Reverb right here. Sounds like this before I do any EQ to it. I'm going to show you some magical EQ frequencies that are going to help you brighten up just about any sound you want. So again, sounds like this. I'm going to just put it on my middle pickup. How's that? Nice, balanced, no bright switch type tone. Now let me turn on the beautiful brightness and all the high-end lovely stuff. Come on, man. That's so good, so lovely, so beautiful, and really a different voice. Now, there's a couple ways to do this, but really we're focusing on this treble range around the 4,000 hertz, 4,500 hertz in that zone. So let me show you what I'm doing here. I'm doing two things, and I want you to see what I'm doing. First thing is I'm using this high gain. I'm using the high gain. No, it's not high gain. It's just an EQ, but it's the higher frequency gain that I get in my studio EQ. And you know what? Let me do this. Let me build this for you so you can hear it being put together. So I'm going to put this to 0. I only have two little EQ adjustments going here to give me that sound. So I'm going to put this one to 0, and we're just going to play around with this high shelf. So this in the studio EQ, we get a high shelf and a low shelf. And a shelf is just a type of EQ where we get to pick a point, and on the high shelf, we get to say from this point up the frequency range, this point and higher, I want you to boost it 5 dB, 2 dB, or I want you to cut it 2 dB or 3 dB. All the frequencies up there. And we get to do that too on the low shelf, but we're not going to do that today. And then we have this other one that it's these mid-range frequencies, but we can set them. We can set our frequencies to pretty much anything we want. And they're bumps. They're meant to give you a bump at a certain frequency, and you get to choose how wide that bump is or how narrow it is, and you get to choose how much. And so let's just focus on that shelf for a minute. Here is with nothing going on, and then I'm just going to take that 4,000, kind of frequency range and boost everything above it, just slowly bring it up. So here's with nothing again. Now let's boost those frequencies up about 4 dB. And you can hear we're going. Look, we're already at 6.9 decibels. I love the sort of chirp and the cluck of those open strings, They really ring out at those frequencies. It's a very Fender-y type thing to me. So I can be as aggressive as I want. I can keep, upping this. I'm at 11 dB. But see, I'm getting a lot of clack on the strings now. The shelf lets us choose a point where we want to make our change, but it doesn't sort of give us any more control over where we want to stop. Now, how do we curtail some of those high frequencies? Maybe we don't want that much 10K and 12K and the really, really high up stuff. So let's use the shelf, but let's not be silly about it. Let's just use it a sensible amount. I'm going to use it about 3 dB. And so without it, again, I'm back here. And with it on, I'm going to get a little more. Again, I'm trying to just bring up that presence, trying to bring up those higher frequencies to get us a little brighter. Now, you might be thinking, HW, but what about the authenticity? Let me tell you something, my friends. The sound of this amp is not going to be destroyed if I add some high end or low end. The sound of this amp is really in the shape of the EQ curve. It's a very complicated EQ curve that is in balance with each other. So it's this, and it's all these ups and downs, and it's far more complicated than I could dial in with just a little 32 band EQ. It's all these points, And so if I just take a point and up it, it's really more like me going to maybe the center of that speaker a little more and accenting some of those frequencies. It's still delivering the frequencies in its own signature sort of balance that makes this sound like a deluxe reverb and makes something else sound like an AC30 and makes something else sound like a Tweed and something else sound like a Marshall. So, okay, I'm boosting this about 3 dB. Now, the other thing I want to do is I want to come in here and I actually want to use one of the bump EQs, this bump kind of thing. Not a shelf where I pick a point and everything above it goes up or everything above it goes down, but where I have this bump where I get to choose. That's the frequency I want to target, lift it way up, and on both sides just sort of come down in a slope. Just give me a bump those frequencies. A lot of times we bump the mids. Well, today we're going to bump the high end. And so that is 4,100, 4,200, wherever your dial lands, it doesn't matter. Be around 4,000. You know what I'm saying? Trust me, it won't matter. Now, I'm going to up this kind of a lot. I'm going to put this up at 5 dB. And here's what that's going to do. We're not going to get all that big bump up at 7, 10, 12K. We don't need any more of that. But what we are going to get is those treble frequencies right there. And we're going to get some lower frequencies. We are going to get some high mids coming up, high mids, 2,500, 3,000. Those frequencies, it's like, is it treble? It's kind of those signature Marshall frequencies, that high mid-range, 1,600, 1,200, around 1,600, 2,000, up there, that sound of the Marshall. And it's sort of that high mids, treble-y kind of thing. It just brings up, it's a real vocal quality. Okay, I'm going to scoop that out. Now it's negative 5 dB. where'd I go? I'm all the way back there now. I'm way back there. I just took my guitar and threw myself way back there. Because the ear tells us when treble disappears, something's far away. And that's just how the ear works. We can get into why that is. It's actually so that you know if that lion behind you is about to eat you or if he's 100 yards away. If you hear that rustling in the bush, it's the amount of treble that tells you how close it is. And so let's go up 5 dB. We'll really put that guitar right in front of us. I love chords with these frequencies, you know. They're articulate and they pop out, and this is where you get a lot of what they call note separation. You can hear the attack of each of the strings. You can really pick out those notes, and it's right here. Now, again, together these things work really well. I'm lifting all of the high end up a bit, and then I'm really focusing on that beginning of that range that I selected and really pushing that. So what we're getting is, instead of a flat EQ like we have, consider what we had before, just flat. Now we're getting a huge bump at 4K, comes down, but then it stays elevated all the way up. And that's how we use a little bump and a little shelf together to get a very natural lift and go from this beautiful, by the way, beautiful, warm, full 65 deluxe reverb. And this isn't even overly dark. This is just a nice, full, balanced tone. I mean, listen to this. This is with no brightening. On the bridge. Nice and full and big, mid-rangey, like a deluxe reverb can be. Got a little grit going, a vibrato channel, and then boom, we brighten it up. Middle position. It's a free download on the Tips and Tricks site. Guys, use this, man. Please use this. You can, it's so useful. It's so lovely. Try this if you want to make your guitar brighter in a mix. I mean, you can hear I'm getting some Telly-esque tones on this P90. It's such a useful trick. You got to know how to do this. I've been HW.